Over the years, I've challenged you. I've reminded you of how God takes care of us in sufferings. And today I want to challenge you to make this truth your own by doing a spiritual exercise. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, as part of our desert, wilderness, Lenten experience, you need to take a bit more responsibility for your own spiritual well being. I find that many of us, many of you, get discouraged too easily. And you rely too much on other things to bring you up. And so you need to grow in strength. And you need to turn more to Jesus directly so that he can lift you up. And so this spiritual exercise will be very easy. What's going to happen is we're going to go into a prayer. We're going to tell Jesus about a suffering that we're enduring. And then we're going to let him show us the future, what he's going to do through this suffering. And that's going to strengthen us. So a few quick examples. There was a mother who was once worried about her children. And in prayer, Jesus showed that mother the future of her children. And that strengthened her to keep on guiding them. Let's say I have a mental illness. I'm struggling. But I go to Jesus in prayer, and then he shows me how he's going to take care of me, how he's going to do something beautiful in it. That gives me strength to persevere. A few weeks ago, there was a commercial celebrated by pro-lifers. And what it is a Christian couple, they didn't mention this in the commercial, but it's a true story. A Christian couple adopts a girl from Siberia, Russia, and they get the call that their adopted daughter will have to have her legs amputated. But the key point of it is the way the mother has such faith. She sees the future and she says in it, it might not be easy, but it'll be amazing. So I just want to show this 55-second video right now.
Mrs. Long?
Yes?
We've found a baby girl for your adoption, but there's some things you need to know. She's in Siberia, and she was born with a rare condition. Her legs will need to be amputated. I know this is difficult to hear. Her life, it won't be easy. Mrs. Long?
It might not be easy, but it'll be amazing. I can't wait to meet her.
The gospel today gives us the account of Jesus' transfiguration. Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. So many of us know, the spiritual authors comment that Jesus took these three apostles up the mountain because they would be the three who would have their faith challenged the most. He would take them later on, just before his passion, just before his death, into the Garden of Gethsemane. They would see him sweating blood. So their faith would be shaken. It would be tempted. And in order to strengthen them, he takes them up the mountain. And he was transfigured before them. And his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. So Jesus is God. But when he took on human nature, when he was conceived in Mary's womb, his divinity was hidden. So if you were to look at Jesus, you couldn't see that he was God. But for this brief moment on the mountain, these three apostles, they look at him, and literally through his face and through his clothing, they see his divinity, the glory, his Godhead. So what Jesus is doing is he's saying to them, look at me. Pretty soon your faith will be shaken, but have faith in me. I'm God. I will rise again. Later on during Mass, we're going to hear these words sung in the preface. On the holy mountain, he manifested to them his glory to show that the passion leads to the glory of the resurrection. Keep in mind that the transfiguration will prepare us for suffering in our lives, but it won't take away the suffering. Only the resurrection can truly do that. But the transfiguration will prepare us to get through our suffering. Then a cloud overshadowed them. And from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my Son, the beloved, listen to him." In the Old Testament, the cloud is always the sign of God the Father's voice, and now that voice is reminding them and us, listen to Jesus, so that God the Father wants all of us today to have more faith in his Son. So Jesus is trying to strengthen us. But here we go again. You have to do the work. You can't just rely on me and other people too much to always strengthen you. I want you to go to this prayer, to this gospel scene, and you see what Jesus is saying to you. I'll teach you how to do it. There are 3 steps. And by the way, this prayer experience should take between 10 minutes and 1 hour. Step 1 is the location. So Jesus took the 3 apostles to a high mountain. And in the Old Testament, that's always an encounter with God on top of a mountain. So I want to ask you, can you go to a location where you normally don't go? Can you go to, whatever, Cypress Bowl? Can you drive up there? Could you go to a park? Can you go to the water? Now, the point is the location should facilitate an experience of, I'm really small. My sufferings aren't as big as I think they are, and God is bigger than all of it. Once you go to that location, relax, find a comfortable bodily position. Second part. Start praying imaginatively with this scene of the Transfiguration. It's only 7 verses. It's Mark chapter 9. First thing you do is you imagine yourself going up the mountain. Let's see the pictures of the actual Mount of the Transfiguration in Jerusalem. So you imagine yourself going up there and tell Jesus in your prayer, tell him your problems, tell him what's bothering you, tell him what's hurting, tell him. Okay? And then see him transfigured before you. Now, this is a famous painting by Karl Bloch. It's supposed to be a very realistic one. It's supposed to give us the sense of what Jesus would look like, the glory, the beauty. Listen what he says to you. What do you experience? What does he say to you about the future? You look at his glory, his divinity, the future of the resurrection. Is he asking you to change something? How is he asking you to persevere? Now look up. I want you to see the cloud and the Father's voice. Now, whatever the Father says to you, you know he's going to say, have more faith. More faith. That's the second part of this meditation. Third part is the conclusion. Very simple. You have to end with these words, and they're taken from the first reading from Abraham. You just end with this prayer. God himself will provide. That's your conclusion. Okay, so I've purposely not given you too many examples of how this seeing into the future will strengthen us for the present, but I will give you one final powerful example. This is a sad but very moving story, one of the most beautiful in the Old Testament. It comes from 2 Maccabees chapter 7. It's commonly known as the martyrdom of the mother and her 7 sons. And of course, the story will show how these 8 people in the family, they had such a sense of the future that God showed them that they could endure any suffering and conquer it. It begins. It happened that 7 brothers and their mother were arrested and being compelled by the king under torture with whips and thongs to partake of unlawful swine's flesh. So this happens around the year 175 BC. The Greeks had invaded Jerusalem. They forbade the Jewish people from practicing their faith. And with this family, they start torturing the first brother as this family looks on. And he refuses to give in to the king, King Antiochus. So they kill the first brother, and then they do the same to the second. And at his last breath, the second brother says, "You accursed wretch, you dismiss us from this present life, but the King of the universe will raise us up to an everlasting renewal of life because we have died for his laws." When they bring the third brother to the torturers, he stretches out his hands. He says, "I got these from heaven, and from him I hope to get them back again." Then they kill the fourth brother, and then the fifth brother. And it's because all of them had such a sense of the resurrection, it says they regarded their sufferings as nothing. Finally, after the 6 oldest have died, the text says, the mother was especially admirable and worthy of honorable memory. Although she saw her 7 sons perish within a single day, she bore it with good courage because of her hope in the Lord. The king is enraged at the mother, and with the youngest, the final, the 7th son, the king offers this son prosperity, riches, if he will give in. He refuses, so the king turns to the mother, tells her to persuade her son. And the text says, leaning close to him, she spoke in their native language as follows, my son, have pity on me. I carried you 9 months in my womb and nursed you for 3 years and have taken care of you. I beg you, my child, to look at the heaven and the earth and recognize that God did not make them out of the things that existed. And in the same way, the human race came into being. Do not fear this butcher, but prove worthy of your brothers. Accept death, so that in God's mercy, I may get you back again, along with your brothers. And it actually says that the son, he interrupts his mother, looks at the king, and he says, what are you waiting for? And so the king kills him, and it says, last of all, the mother died after her sons. Whenever I read this or hear about this story, I'm instantly strengthened because I have fear, I have reluctance, I have hesitation. And then I think about the truth of the resurrection. Nothing can really hurt me. And these 8 people in the family, they conquered. They conquered all fear. So if we turn to Jesus, we can endure suffering because we see his resurrection.